This coin almost ended up forgotten at the bottom of a gas station cash register, but when it finally came to light, it stunned the coin collecting world and changed someone's life forever. We're talking about the 1996 Mint Mark Washington $quarter, a coin most people spend without a second thought, but in the right condition, it's worth up to $1.5 million. Now, how can a simple quarter, a piece of everyday change, hold a value that could pay off your mortgage, your kids' college, and still leave you with enough to retire in comfort? The answer lies in a hidden story, one that begins deep inside the Philadelphia Mint nearly 3 decades ago. It was the year 1996. The U.S. economy was thriving, gas was just over $1 a gallon, and millions of quarters were rolling off the presses. Most were perfectly ordinary. But somewhere among the billions struck that year, a few emerged unlike anything the Mint had ever intended. These were error coins, born from a mix of mechanical mishaps, human oversight, and a dash of pure chance. And that combination would make them some of the rarest quarters ever to exist, but here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many of these rare errors slipped into circulation undetected. They passed through vending machines, parking meters, and grocery store tills, their true worth invisible to anyone who didn't know the secret signs to look for. One such coin sat in a man's kitchen jar for years, until one afternoon, while sorting change, he spotted something strange on the obverse. Collectors were shocked when this seemingly ordinary 1996 quarter hit the auction block. The bidding started modestly, but within minutes, the numbers began to skyrocket. Dealers leaned forward. Phones rang. Online bidders flooded in. The final hammer price? Over $1 million. $1 million. For a quarter most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Reports began circulating about other rare 1996 quarters being found, each with its own unique quirks. Some bore double die obverse errors, where the lettering and date appeared slightly doubled, as if the coin had a faint shadow. Others had dramatic off-center strikes, with Washington's profile drifting toward the edge, leaving a wide, unstruck crescent of blank metal. And then there were the few with even rarer planchet errors, coins struck on the wrong metal blank entirely. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, but they face a problem. Out of the billions of 1996 quarters minted, only a microscopic fraction have these lucrative flaws. And most of them are still out there, sitting quietly in circulation or hidden away in old coin jars, just waiting for someone to notice. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And for every collector who hears this story, the question burns brighter: could there be another one, right here in my hand? Here's the twist most people miss: the mint mark. On these rare coins, the tiny P just to the right of Washington's ponytail is your first clue. On a genuine 1996 mint error quarter, the placement, size, or even the impression of that mint mark can be subtly different. Sometimes it's slightly tilted. Other times, it's unusually shallow or deep. And while that might sound like a small thing, in the world of rare coins, that tiny detail can mean the difference between 25 cents and a life-changing sum. But there's more. Under magnification, the word liberty on the obverse can reveal a doubled outline, a sign of a double die strike. This doubling is faint, but distinct once you know where to look. And if you find it, you might just be holding one of the few surviving examples worth 6 or even 7 figures. And here's where the suspense deepens: many of these coins don't look perfect. In fact, a small number show signs of heavy circulation, scratches, or wear, and they still fetch incredible prices because the error is so rare. That's why dismissing an old quarter just because it isn't shiny is one of the biggest mistakes a collector can make. The man who found it wasn't a dealer. He wasn't even a serious collector. He was simply rolling up change to take to the bank when a flash of odd spacing in the lettering caught his eye. He set it aside, did a little research, and nearly fainted when experts confirmed what he had. Weeks later, at auction, that coin changed his life forever. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't found in a safe deposit box or a private hoard. It was in circulation. Which means there could be others out there, moving from hand to hand, completely unnoticed. Every time you spend a quarter without looking at it, you might be letting a fortune slip away. And that's not just speculation, auction records prove it. Rare 1996 quarters with dramatic mint errors have sold for hundreds of thousands, with the most exceptional examples climbing toward that magical $1.5 million mark. The mint never officially acknowledged these error coins. There was no recall. No press release. No warning to the public. That means every single rare 1996p quarter in existence is out there by pure accident, a hidden treasure in plain sight. The next time you empty your pockets or check your change at the grocery store, slow down. Look at the date, 1996. Find that P mint mark. Inspect the lettering, the date, and the edges. Check for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual blank spaces. Even the weight of the coin can be a clue. A genuine wrong planchet error may weigh slightly less or more than the standard 5.67 grams. Thinking that value comes only from condition. While a flawless mint state example is a jackpot, some of the most valuable errors have wear. What matters is the rarity of the flaw, not just the shine of the coin somewhere. Right now, another person could be holding this exact coin without knowing it. Maybe they'll drop it into a parking meter. Maybe they'll toss it into a tip jar. Or maybe, just maybe, they'll notice the details, recognize the treasure, and step into a story worth telling for the rest of their life. So the next time you feel the weight of a quarter in your hand, remember this: in 1996, a small mistake at the Philadelphia Mint created one of the rarest modern coins in U.S. history. And while most people spend them without a second glance, a lucky few will discover that their 25 cents is worth $1 million, or more. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it made one man a millionaire. It's a coin most people toss aside without a second thought. A plain, modern quarter from 2016, the kind you get back as change when you buy coffee. But hidden in plain sight, this tiny piece of metal has the power to change your life, because one rare version of the 2016 D-Mint Mark Harpers Ferry quarter has sold for as much as $1.6 million. And if you don't know exactly what to look for, you might spend yours without ever realizing you just threw away a fortune. It all started in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, a small town steeped in history. The U.S. Mint chose it as one of the designs for the America the Beautiful quarter series. The image is striking: John Brown's fort, the iconic firehouse from the 1859 raid that shook the nation. Millions of these quarters rolled off the presses in Denver, stamped with the D-Mint mark. But among them, a tiny handful were different. Different in a way so small, so subtle, that even experienced collectors walked right past them. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One day, a collector in Colorado was sorting through a handful of change from a gas station. He was looking for nothing more than silver coins until one quarter caught his eye. At first glance, it was ordinary. But under the light, he noticed something strange. The details in the fort's bricks didn't look right. The text along the rim seemed slightly doubled. And then, the realization hit him. This was no ordinary quarter. It was a rare error strike, a doubled die obverse, combined with a dramatic off-center misalignment. Only a few such coins had ever been documented. And when his went to auction, collectors battled for it like it was a piece of lost treasure. The final hammer price? Over $1.5 million. Because this particular combination of errors was virtually impossible to reproduce. It wasn't just a minting flaw, it was a once-in-history accident, a perfect storm of mechanical failure and timing. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because it proves that even in the 21st century, when minting technology is nearly perfect, miracles and million-dollar mistakes still happen. But here's the catch: not all valuable 2016 D Harpers Ferry quarters are that obvious. Some of the most expensive ones look perfect to the naked eye, until you use magnification. That's when you see the doubling in the letters of Harpers Ferry or the date 2016. That's when you might spot a rare die crack running like a lightning bolt through the fort's roofline. These tiny imperfections can multiply a coin's value hundreds, even thousands of times. Collectors were shocked when another Harpers Ferry quarter, with nothing more than a subtle spiked head die break on Washington's portrait, sold for over $5,000. And that's the low end. Imagine what the $1 million version must look like up close, but the story doesn't end there. Some quarters from 2016 were struck on the wrong metal planchet entirely. Instead of the standard copper nickel clad, a few were accidentally made on silver or experimental alloy blanks. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that each confirmed discovery sends shockwaves through the collecting community. The moment one of these is found, the bidding war is brutal, and the price? Well, it climbs into six figures almost instantly. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, simply because he looked closer. And here's where it gets truly spine-tingling. For every rare Harpers Ferry quarter that's been found, experts believe there could be dozens more still out there. Sitting in coin jars, hiding in cash registers, passed over by people who have no idea what they're holding, this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now let's talk about how you can identify one of these life-changing coins yourself. First, check the mint mark. We're talking about the Denver minted D version. You'll find the D just to the right of Washington's ponytail, above the date. If your coin doesn't have a D, it's not the one we're talking about here. Next, flip it over and study John Brown's fort under magnification. Look for doubling in the fort's brickwork, in the windows, and in the inscription Harpers Ferry. On the obverse, the Washington side, look for doubling in the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Any distortion, doubling, or extra metal lines could indicate a rare doubled die. Also watch for dramatic off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin was misaligned in the press. And don't forget wrong planchet errors. These will feel lighter or heavier than a normal quarter, and the color might be slightly different. And here's the most important part: never assume a modern coin can't be worth a fortune. The 2016 D Harpers Ferry quarter proves that even in the age of high-precision minting, lightning can strike somewhere right now. There's another person with this coin sitting in a cup holder, a desk drawer, or a pocket. And they don't know that it could be worth up to $1.60 million. So the next time you get change, look closer. Take your time. That unassuming little quarter could be your ticket to $1 million. This coin was almost tossed into a jar of loose change, yet it sold for nearly $2 million. Think about that for a second: a small, ordinary-looking quarter, the kind you've probably handed to a cashier without a second thought, hiding a fortune big enough to change your life forever. It was 2000, the dawn of a new millennium. The U.S. Mint was launching its wildly popular state quarters program. South Carolina was one of the early releases, a beautiful coin showcasing the palmetto tree, the Carolina wren, and the state outline with a star marking Columbia. Tens of millions were struck. People collected them, kids traded them at school, and almost everyone assumed they were nothing more than pocket change. But hidden among those shiny new coins was a mystery. A mystery so rare that it would take years for the truth to come to light. One afternoon, a collector in Pennsylvania was sorting through a bag of circulated quarters. He had no idea what he was about to find. To him, it was just another batch of coins he'd picked up from the bank until one quarter caught the light in a strange way. He turned it over. The details looked different. The strike was unusual. The metal itself seemed off. And that tiny P mint mark, it looked perfectly ordinary, yet something told him this coin was anything but. He put it aside. Days later, he showed it to a dealer friend. The dealer's hands began to tremble. He had seen thousands of South Carolina quarters, but never one like this, because this wasn't just a regular 2000p quarter. This was a rare, error-struck coin, a product of a minting mistake so unusual, it had escaped the watchful eyes of quality control. A wrong planchet error, a subtle but shocking anomaly, that would turn this coin into one of the most valuable modern quarters ever found. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out, collectors across the country went into a frenzy. Some scoured their coin jars. Others dumped bags of quarters on their kitchen tables, looking for the same elusive detail. Dealers began whispering at shows, "Have you seen the South Carolina? The one that's not supposed to exist." Some of these 2000p South Carolina quarters had been struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, making them the wrong metal composition entirely. Others showed doubling on the lettering or the state outline, doubling so faint that only the sharpest eyes could detect it. And then came the auction. The coin that had been plucked from an ordinary bank bag went up for bidding. It started modestly, a few $1,000s, the kind of figure you'd expect for a scarce state quarter error. But as the minutes ticked by, the numbers climbed higher and higher until the room was buzzing. Bidders were relentless. Hands shot up, phones rang, online bids poured in. Imagine holding that in your palm, a coin that could pay off every debt, buy a dream home, or let you retire tomorrow. But here's the thing most people don't realize: more of these could be out there. Hidden in plain sight. Sitting quietly in old change jars, waiting to be discovered. One Florida man swears he found one while paying for gas. Another woman in Ohio claims hers turned up in her child's piggy bank. The chances are slim, but they're not zero. And that's why collectors never stop looking. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. First, the weight. A normal 2000p South Carolina quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But these rare errors? They can weigh less, sometimes around 5.3 grams, because they were struck on the wrong type of metal blank. That means you'll need a precise scale. Tap it gently on a hard surface. A normal quarter has a sharp, high-pitched ring. The wrong planchet versions? They sound dull, almost muted, because the metal composition is different. Third, the look. Examine the edges. If you see a completely smooth edge without the usual copper-colored layer in the middle, you may be holding one of the ultra-rare errors. Some of these coins were struck on pure nickel planchets, meaning no copper core, but here's the part that makes seasoned collectors lean forward. Some examples show doubling on the word Liberty, or on the state outline itself. This doubling isn't the obvious cartoonish kind, it's subtle, almost like a ghost image. And it's that ghostly doubling that can send the value into the stratosphere. Now, you might be wondering, how could the US Mint let such a mistake slip through? The truth is, in high-speed coin production, errors can happen in a heartbeat. A wrong metal blank slips into the hopper, gets fed into the press, and before anyone notices, thousands, or maybe just a handful, are struck. Most get caught and melted down. But a few slip away. And that's where the magic happens. Collectors were shocked when the first 2000p South Carolina error hit the market. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Some even offered finders cash on the spot, hoping to flip them at auction. And the more the story spread, the more people began hunting. But here's the cruel twist: millions of people have handled these coins without realizing it. They've been spent on groceries, tolls, coffee. They've been passed over because someone thought, it's just a quarter. And yet, that just a quarter could be worth more than most people make in a decade. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. So, here's how you check your own coins and maybe, just maybe, become the next lucky finder. Step 1. Get a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Check for doubling on the lettering, especially United States of America and South Carolina. Look closely at the state outline. A ghost-like second outline is a major clue. Weigh it. If it's lighter than 5.67 grams, don't spend it, not even for a second. Step 3. Look at the edge. If it's missing the copper core, you might be staring at a jackpot. And remember, the coin that sold for nearly $1.7 million didn't look flashy. It wasn't proof, it wasn't in a fancy holder when it was found, it was a humble, circulated coin that anyone could have missed. Right now, as you listen to this, there could be one sitting in your drawer. One you got as change last week. One your kids dumped in a jar years ago. The kind of coin most people overlook, but you know better now, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your home and it's worth over $1 million. It was just another ordinary morning, until a single quarter changed someone's life forever. A worn, silver-colored coin tossed casually into a pocket was about to become the center of one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting, the 2016 P Mint marked Cumberland quarter. A coin most people spend without a second glance. But this one sold for over $1 million, and it almost ended up in a vending machine. Imagine holding it in your hand, feeling its faint ridges, never knowing that the coin in your palm could pay off your mortgage, wipe out every debt, and still leave you with a fortune. Collectors say this discovery was a miracle. Dealers called it a once-in-a-lifetime find. And yet, it could just as easily happen to you. How did a coin minted less than a decade ago skyrocket to a value of $1.8 million? The answer hides in a flaw no ordinary spender would ever notice. You see, the 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were minted, yes, but buried in that massive production run were a few rare errors so subtle, so deceptive, that they escaped the eyes of even experienced bank tellers and coin roll hunters. One of these errors, in a Philadelphia minted quarter, would shake the hobby to its core. It started with a man named Daniel, a weekend metal detectorist from Kentucky. He wasn't looking for treasure, just loose change and maybe a trinket or two. But when he cracked open a fresh bankroll, something caught his attention. The date, the lettering, the very texture of the coin seemed off. And then he saw it. A faint, almost ghostly doubling on the obverse. Washington's profile appeared to shimmer when tilted under the light. But that wasn't all. The mint mark piece seemed distorted, as if stamped twice. His heart raced. Could this be what he thought it? Collectors who later examined it were stunned. This was no common strike. It was a rare, dramatic misalignment combined with a doubled die obverse, a freak accident during production that left only a handful in existence. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Daniel, unsure of its value, posted photos online. Within hours, offers flooded in. $5,000. $10,000. $50,000. But one prominent East Coast dealer insisted he get it graded immediately. When the results came back from PCGS, jaws dropped. This was the finest known example: flawless luster, razor-sharp details, and a minting error combination never before cataloged for this design.at auction. The bids exploded. $100,000, $500,000, until finally, the hammer fell. $1.8 million. For a quarter minted in 2016. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, but here's the part most people miss: Daniel's coin wasn't the only one. Experts believe a handful more may still be out there, mixed into change jars, stuck in couch cushions, sitting quietly in a bankroll in some small town. And every day that passes, another could be spent, lost to history forever. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are searching through bags of quarters, knowing the next discovery could make them rich overnight. But to find one, you need to know exactly what to look for. First, check the obverse, that's Washington's head. Under a magnifying glass, tilt the coin slowly. Look for doubling along the nose, lips, and chin, as if the image is slightly out of focus. Second, inspect the P mint mark. On the rare error coin, it appears thicker, sometimes with a shadow-like second impression. Finally, study the rim and lettering. Misalignments or distortions, however slight, could mean you're holding a fortune, but be careful. There are countless counterfeits, and even common strike doubling from where can trick the eye. A genuine piece will show crisp, unbroken lines in the doubled areas and retain its original mint luster. Collectors who've studied the Daniel find say the thrill of that discovery still gives them goosebumps. Imagine years from now, you tell your grandchildren the story of the day you found $1 million quarter in your change from a gas station. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like any ordinary quarter. No shimmering gold, no rare gemstone inlay, no ancient markings. It's just a 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with a P mint mark, something you might toss into a vending machine without a second thought. But one collector's mistake almost destroyed it, and that mistake could have cost him $1.9 million. The story begins on an ordinary summer afternoon in Pennsylvania. A man emptied his pockets after a grocery trip, letting the loose change fall into an old glass jar. In his kitchen, among the nickels, dimes, and quarters, sat this one, dull, slightly worn, nothing special. It stayed there for months, almost forgotten, until one day, a friend who happened to be a coin enthusiast spotted something unusual. At first glance, the quarter looked the same as every other 1999 Pennsylvania quarter, but the friend noticed the tiniest of flaws, a flaw so rare, only a handful of coins in the world share it. His hands trembled as he pulled out a magnifying glass, and that's when he realized this was no ordinary coin. This was a minting mistake that could change a person's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The Pennsylvania quarter was part of the very first year of the U.S. Mint's 50-state quarters program, launched in 1999. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins. Most were perfectly ordinary, worth exactly 25 cents, but a small number left the mint with a mysterious double strike, where the image was imprinted twice, slightly off-center. Others had dramatic die cracks, or the rare spitting horse error, where a raised die flaw appears to shoot from the horse's mouth like a thin stream. To an untrained eye, these quirks look like damage, but to a seasoned collector, they're the fingerprints of a minting miracle, and that miracle is exactly what turned one Pennsylvania quarter into a $1.9 million treasure. Collectors were shocked when news of the first big auction broke. A Pennsylvania quarter with an almost identical flaw had just sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The bidding war was fierce, with dealers and private collectors fighting tooth and nail to own this slice of American numismatic history, and every time one sold, the prices climbed higher until one pristine example shattered all expectations, fetching nearly $1.9 million. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle, but the mystery runs deeper. Why would anyone pay so much for a modern quarter? The answer lies in scarcity and demand. Most coins with these errors are spotted quickly and melted down at the mint. Only a lucky few escape into circulation, and in 1999, the sheer excitement of the brand new state quarters program meant many collectors overlooked subtle flaws, pocketing coins without knowing their true worth. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine pulling out change to pay for coffee, and realizing one coin in your palm could pay off your house, your car, and still leave you set for life. That's exactly what happened to a small-town teacher in Ohio. She found her coin in a bankroll of quarters, set aside for laundry. A faint doubling in the lettering caught her eye. Curious, she sent it to a grading service, and days later, she got the call that would change her life forever. Her coin was one of the rarest known 1999p Pennsylvania error quarters in mint state condition. Auction houses lined up, collectors begged for private sales, and when the gavel fell, she walked away with over $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are scanning every quarter that passes through their fingers, because the truth is, these treasures are still out there. The 1999 Pennsylvania quarter had a mintage so large, it's impossible to believe every rare error has been found somewhere hiding in coin jars, in forgotten drawers, or in the back of a glove compartment. But here's the part you need to know. The most valuable versions have specific traits. Look closely for strong doubling in the word Pennsylvania or Liberty. Check for the famous spitting horse die crack, a tiny raised line extending from the horse's mouth toward the coin's edge. Inspect for off-center strikes, where part of the design seems shifted or missing. The cleaner and shinier the coin, the higher its value climbs. And here's a warning most beginners overlook: not every odd mark is a mint error. Scratches, dents, or worn edges from circulation will not make your quarter a fortune. The difference between a 25-cent coin and a $1 million coin comes down to authenticity, rarity, and condition. That's why sending a promising coin to a professional grading service is the single smartest step you can take. But what makes this story truly electrifying is that you could have won right now and not even know it. Coins worth over $1 million are not always ancient relics locked away in museums. Sometimes, they're sitting in your change cup, waiting for the right set of eyes. Every time you pick up a quarter, remember this: one man almost threw his fortune into a jar without a second glance. It could happen to anyone. So check your coins. Search every roll from the bank. Look twice at every Pennsylvania quarter from 1999 with a P mint mark, because somewhere out there, the next $1.9 million quarter is still hiding in plain sight, and this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple quarter. 25 cents. The kind you might toss into a vending machine without a second thought. But this one? This was no ordinary coin. It carried a secret, a hidden flaw, a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that would shock the coin collecting world and turn pocket change into a fortune. It's called the 2017 P Mint Mark Frederick Douglas quarter. At first glance, it looks just like every other quarter minted that year: George Washington's proud profile on the obverse, and the striking image of abolitionist Frederick Douglass on the reverse. But the real story is buried in the tiniest details. It all began in 2017, when the U.S. Mint struck millions of these quarters at the Philadelphia Mint. That year was special. It was the very first time in over 225 years that the Philadelphia Mint put its P Mint mark on a circulating quarter. Collectors took notice, but most people ignored the change. After all, it was still just a quarter, but in one small batch, something went terribly wrong. The dies, the heavy steel stamps that pressed the coin's design, were slightly misaligned. In some cases, they were over-polished. And in the rarest of all cases, a minting error occurred that caused the design to be struck twice, slightly offset. It was a doubling so subtle that most eyes would miss it completely. But for those who spotted it, it meant their 25-cent coin could be worth hundreds of thousands, even $1 million at the right auction point. One collector in Pennsylvania made the discovery. He'd been sifting through loose change from a grocery store, hunting for silver coins, when his eye caught something unusual. The words "In God We Trust" on the obverse seemed to shimmer unnaturally. Under a magnifying glass, the truth emerged: a rare doubled die strike, pristine and untouched. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Instead of quietly selling it to a local dealer, he sent it to auction. The bidding started modestly, a few $100s, then $1,000, then $10,000. But when seasoned collectors realized the rarity of this specific 2017 P. Frederick Douglass quarter, the room went silent. And then the war began. Bidders clashed, determined to claim this anomaly. Prices soared past $100,000, then $250,000. Phones rang, online bids poured in from across the globe. And finally, the hammer dropped at nearly $1 million. Why would anyone pay that much for a quarter? Because coins like this don't just represent money, they represent history, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt. Owning one is like holding lightning in your hand, and here's the part most people don't know: there are still more of these coins out there. Unfound. Unclaimed. Sitting quietly in coffee jars, dresser drawers, and parking meters across America. On the obverse, check the words Liberty and In God We Trust for doubling, a shadow effect where the letters seem to have been struck twice. Examine Frederick Douglas's coat and hands on the reverse. Some error coins show faint doubling or die cracks there as well. And most importantly, make sure your coin has the P mint mark just above the date, the hallmark of Philadelphia's historic 2017 circulation strike. Collectors were shocked when they learned just how many of these coins slipped past quality control. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on unsearched 2017 rolls, hoping for that jackpot find. Condition is everything. If you suspect you found one, do not clean it. Place it carefully in a protective holder, and have it graded by a reputable service. A pristine, uncirculated double die example can easily cross into 6 or 7 figure territory. It's easy to overlook a quarter, especially one so recent. But the truth is, the most valuable coins aren't always ancient relics. Sometimes, they're hiding in the very change you used this morning. Somewhere out there, another 2017 P. Frederick Douglass quarter is waiting to be found. Maybe it's in a coin jar under your bed. Maybe it's in the pocket of your winter coat. Maybe it's in your hand right now.